Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the June 21st, 2020 solar eclipse in Cancer, part 1 of 2. Now, as far as the basic meaning of a solar eclipse in astrology, well, solar eclipse is like a regular new moon, but it's more amplified and intensified. There may be life-altering implications. It could be something where a monumental turn of events may transpire at this time. I mean, a new moon in astrology is when one feels really rejuvenated and revitalized, and this is a time where you could and where that energy, those feelings are going to be even more amplified, where your energy level might even be stronger, much stronger than that. And it's a time too, like a new moon, to discard what may be frivolous or superfluous, what may have been inhibiting you or holding you back. This is the time now to forge ahead and not look back. Now, when you're talking about those solar eclipses in astrology, it's about something. It's more introspective. It's about where we make our plan to do something new, and it might be it might be life altering. It might have a prodigious effect on you. It don't necessarily mean you're going to start whatever is you plan on doing on that particular day. And really, most people will concur that when you're talking about, especially a solar eclipse, in contrast to a solar eclipse, may not be the day necessarily to start to start doing what you want to embark on doing. That's something new. It may be a time where it might be in the planning stage. You're going to have, like, I believe it's like 5 retrograde planets at this particular solar eclipse. It's including Mercury's going to be retrograde, I believe Venus as well. You're going to have Pluto retrograde, Saturn. There's going to be, I mean, this is a period where it's probably better, especially with all this retrograde energy, for you to perhaps hold back a little bit, but you could still plot and plan what it is you may decide to do that would be something new and something that could have a very protracted or sustained impact on you. Now, given that this is going to be in Cancer, it's going to, I mean, all transits and phases of the moon will, I mean, this will collectively can collectively impact everybody, but especially somebody with a Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant. Partly, I mean, because, I mean, Cancer is simply impacted very strongly by all transits and phases of the moons, and it's going to be in the zodiac sign Cancer as well. So this could be a very important period for Cancer, especially if this is making a conjunction to one's Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant at this time. It could be a very, especially if it's hitting the sun or ascendant, especially more of really like a time where that energy level is going to be at a very strong high, so to speak. If it's conjunct one's moon, it might be more of an emotional uplifting period for you at this time, Cancer. But well, this could be a new start for many, and something with safety or security, or something with some kind of protection. It might be a time where you might, I mean, if it's something where you haven't protected something for a long time, whether it's maybe a family member or what have you, or it's yourself, this could be that period where you embark on something which is connected with some kind of protection. It might be a period where you decide to be just more introverted and have more time, really more to yourself. If you've been depriving yourself of any time in terms of your home life, your family at this time, this could be that time where you make that decision. I mean, if you're somebody, like, say if this falls in your 6th house, it could be a time, let's say if you were a person that had been in the actual working world for a while, maybe it's a time where you begin to do something family related that you consider maybe some kind of work or service. It could be something where maybe you become that stay-at-home dad in some cases. Those are some ways this can manifest and pan out. And Cancer too, I see as being about unequivocal love. And it could be a time where maybe this is the time where you begin to show that unequivocal love for someone or something if you hadn't done it, or it's something that you've been procrastinating on for some period, whether it's a person or maybe being dedicated or devoted to some cause. Um, this could be a time where this is the time where you may start to do that at this time. And also too, it could be a beginning period for many where it's something connected with nurturing. If it falls in your second house as an example, it could be about nurturing one's finances at this time, or one's values if you hadn't done so for a certain time. It could be a start to where many may start maybe that beginning process of some kind of new home or family. I mean, and some of you may ask, well, how would this be different in contrast to a new moon, just a regular new moon? Well, a new moon could be a time where you may, I mean, a new moon in Cancer can be like, well, maybe I'll start to do something where maybe I'll add a family member through procreation as an example. But when you're talking about something like as big and monumental like a solar eclipse, it could be a time where you might just start to really create a family, period. If you don't have your extended family, like say you're just somebody that's been unattached and you don't have that significant other and you're unmarried, this could be that time where you might begin to do something where you actually create your own family, as opposed to maybe just deciding to add another family member under a new moon. Or a new moon in Cancer could just be about starting, it might be just something very simple that could be home related, or rekindling a connection with a family member. It could be some reconciliation, and you might kind of begin that connection over again. But something like this is obviously something that could be much more monumental and prodigious in terms of its impact and your effect on your life. Now, I see this too. I mean, this could be something at this point in time where, I mean, you're going to have this at a critical degree. It's going to be at 0 degrees Cancer. And I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't started before then. We might see something like in the United States, the Major League Baseball season may resume, or at least start in terms of spring training. Now, my understanding is that there's speculation that it may actually start in July. They're currently at an impasse, Major League Baseball, in terms of players and owners or what have you. But keep in mind that Cancer can be about like our pastimes, and in baseball has been referred to in the United States as America's favorite pastime. So it wouldn't surprise me if something begins with baseball at this point, or at or near this point in time. It's also going to you could say make a loose conjunction to the United States natal Jupiter at this time, and Jupiter is connected with sports. So that is one way I think this may manifest and pan out. Now, for many of you, you may start, or some of you anyway, it could be the start of some Cancerian profession. It could be, especially if this falls in the 2nd, 6th, or 10th house in one's natal chart. It could be something, for example, with laundry, with plumbing, or for home renovation, caregiving. It could be something that may maybe associated with something of a something with culinary work, or working as a historian, something with real estate, gardening, cultivation, anything that could be Cancerian related. And the difference between this and say like a regular new moon in Cancer as an example, it's like this could be something, if you decide to embark on a Cancerian profession, it might have been something that you might have thought about for a very long period, or something was finally completed, like a college course which allows you to do this. If this is like a new moon in Cancer, it could manifest similarly if you have this fall in the 2nd, 6th, or 10th house in your chart, but it may not be as protracted or sustained in its effect, and it may be something that maybe it might be more of a shorter term goal or what have you. And this is something that you may actually do and find some really strong career with this, and something that might last for a longer period, in contrast to a regular new moon in Cancer as an example. So anyway, sorry about that, I'm back. Now it's also important to look at the house this falls in, as of course this could impact the delineation and interpretation. Mine is going to fall in my second house, so this could manifest in a multitude of ways, but one way this might manifest and pan out, it could be starting something that's with a lot of dedication, devotion, maybe rescuing somebody that I might value, that maybe plays a role in my self-esteem or self-worth. It could be, in some cases, maybe I start a connection with somebody Cancerian or somebody I feel close to home with that might play, or in somebody that I value very strongly, given that it's in the second house. Now I understand it could also be starting some money making endeavor that could be Cancerian related, that might have a real life altering effect, but I just don't really see something like that happening. When you're looking at these things, and transits are going to happen, people, of course it's always important to incorporate common sense into the equation. I don't think, for example, I don't think I'm going to start anything in the restaurant business or some kind of culinary work, because I know I have irrevocable nerve damage to my arms, my hands. There's very little things I can do physically right now, but you have to look at it in ways where you believe it could realistically impact you when you're talking about a transit. So anyway, well, the next thing up is, of course, it's also important to look at the aspects that makes the points in your chart, as this could impact the delineation and interpretation. Now mine is going to make a it's going to make a conjunction to my natal Mercury in Cancer, and it's going to make an inconjunct aspect to my Aquarius MC. I find this very interesting. I mean, of course, this is another thing that can manifest in a number of ways, but it's something where I think one way it might pan out for me, this could be about the beginning, because new moon solar eclipse can be about beginnings, of course. The fact that it's hitting my Cancer Mercury, it could be about really being about starting to comprehend that maybe I've become too despondent over my own personal issues and maybe the problems globally. Maybe somehow that's conflicting. The fact that it's making the inconjunct to the Aquarius MC, it might be conflicting with maybe me taking hold of my future in my career, or something with the astrological career, or being just more progressive in career related endeavors at this time, and an adjustment may have to be made. Adjustments, I mean, you're talking about inconjuncts, you're talking about adjustments. A lot of times this could manifest in having an overemphasis on one thing or an overemphasis on another. In this case, it might be the Mercury in Cancer, which might be what's causing what I'm overemphasizing, that in contrast to the Aquarius MC, because they are in conjunct by aspect, and the Sun making a conjunction to it might be shining the light on that, so to speak. And I think that is something that I have to really look at this time, and I got to find more of at least a balance and equilibrium between what the Aquarius MC is about and the Mercury in Cancer. And also too, Mercury in Cancer in conjunct the Aquarius MC could also manifest in maybe being too self-conscious to go out and speak as publicly as I want to. I think I've overcome that to some degree, because I am doing that with astrology, and of course Aquarius is on my MC, and Aquarius does rule astrology. So anyway, the next thing, last but not least, in part one of this segment, I want to talk about, well, if this falls in your, say if this falls in your first or sixth house, it could be a new, some cases it could, I believe it could manifest in having a new Cancerian health-related issue. It could be something with the stomach or the chest, and it could be more serious compared to a new moon in astrology. New moon in astrology, you're looking at like a minor strain or sprain maybe, or like a stomach ache. It's not, I mean, when you're talking about a solar eclipse, generally speaking, I would say its impact can be a lot stronger. It may not be anything like breast cancer or anything really super serious, but it can be a lot stronger. It could be a chest infection at this time. It could something where it may be really, in terms of its effect, more prodigious than in terms of an actual or regular new moon. And the thing too is, especially if this, say for example, if this is in your sixth house and it's making an inconjunct aspect to your ascendant, or if it's conjunct your ascendant, or say if it's making an adverse aspect to your natal, your sun or your Mars, those are some ways where it could increase that propensity for that. And one last thing I wanted to talk about as far as this goes, as part one segment goes, is the fact that you're going to have this new moon. It's going to, interestingly enough, it's going to make a conjunction to the North Node in Gemini. And I find that very interesting and intriguing because you're talking about, I mean, it's an out of sign conjunction, but you're talking about, North Node in Gemini can be about early education. That's what Gemini is connected with, being shrewd, using your street smarts, as opposed to maybe higher education and being book smart. I think a lot of this is about where people may start to focus, something could be about our focus on those matters. It may be being the sun in Cancer, focusing on something home related, conjunct the North Node in Gemini, and early education. I wonder if maybe this coronavirus thing might inspire more people in schools maybe to have the kids actually being homeschooled more. And I think this could be a time where you might have that deciding point on that. I think it's going to be a very critical period because, again, it's going to be at 0 degrees Cancer, which is going to put even more emphasis on it. In 0 degrees, of course, in astrology, it's the beginning point. Could be very powerful beginnings for people in general at this time. It may be more so than a typical solar eclipse. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.